The nervous system is further divided um, even more, and we're going to talk about two major divisions first. One is the central nervous system, and that is the brain and the spinal cord, and the other one is the peripheral nervous system, which has the sensory neurons and the motor neurons, the ones that we talked about in the previous section, that pick up the sensation and get the muscles to move and respond. So the peripheral nervous system receives signals, and then it'll send those signals to the spinal cord or to the brain, and that's the central nervous system. And then the central nervous system makes a plan and sends a message back to the peripheral nervous system to make a movement. Now this is kind of a boring picture. I should have been on something cool like this. So this is the brain. This is part of the central nervous system. So the central nervous system, the biggest part, and this we're going to go over this very, very generally, is the cerebrum. And the cerebrum is your favorite part because it has learning and memory and language and speech and all of the voluntary movements and things that you do where you have some choice. And even it has sensory perception. So that is the cerebrum. And then down here we have the medulla oblongata, and that relays signals between the brain and the spinal cord. It it does a lot of things that are involuntary, like it controls the breathing rate, your heart rate, your blood pressure. It also does some things that, like gagging and swallowing and vomiting and coughing and sneezing, where you sometimes you don't know why you coughed. You didn't make yourself cough, or like the sneeze. It's not like it processed as a thought. It was just here in your medulla oblongata. In fact, the more you think about the sneeze, then you can't sneeze anymore. So it's coming from your medulla oblongata. A lot of people who have accidents to brain injury will sometimes lose the function of their cerebrum, yet the person is still able to have some basic body movements because their medulla is working, yet they have no memories or sensory perceptions and those things anymore. Things are just being processed by their body as far as, you know, breathing and your heart rate and blood pressure is being monitored here. Here you have something called the Pons, and that relays signals between the cerebrum and the cerebellum. That also helps with breathing. And then you have this tiny little area called the hypothalamus, and this is so small, but it controls so much. It controls your temperature, your thirst, your appetite, your water balance. It actually controls sleep, aggression, fear, sexual behavior is controlled there. It really, it's a very tiny part. Your book says about the size of a fingernail. I guess that's what I would say. But it's very, very small, and yet it controls a lot. Okay, down to the peripheral nervous system, which is the outside. So not the brain and spinal cord. It's everything else in this picture. I don't think they should have highlighted those. But the peripheral nervous system, there's two basic parts. The first one is the somatic nervous system, and it communicates with sensory messages to the brain, and then it sends instructions from the brain to the skeletal muscles. And then there's the autonomic nervous system, which carries impulses from the brain to your different organs. So we're going to talk about the somatic first. The somatic, so there's this chart, and I think it's helpful to have it broken down this way. Okay, so central was brain and spinal cord. Okay, but now we're on to peripheral, and there's two types of two divisions under peripheral. There's the somatic and there's the autonomic, and so we're going to stay here first on the somatic. Okay, this one is generally voluntary, except sometimes this is where the reflex arc is. And it relays information from the skin and to the skeletal muscles. This other one is more the internal organs. So this is the one that you can really like think about because it's your muscles. So if you were asked if you were lifting weights, would you use the somatic, which is your skin and muscles, or would you use the one for your internal organs, the autonomic? Well, if you were lifting weights, you would be using the somatic because it's voluntary. You have some choice over it. Um, so some responses, like I said here, go from the reflex arc, but most are voluntary. Okay. Involuntary is the autonomic. And the autonomic just responds to things, especially like stress, um, and things that happen with your body, scary situations. Your body in those types of situations, when you're under a lot of stress, when you have something scary that happens to you, your body will actually send more of its efforts, blood, resources to the somatic and not to the autonomic. This makes it so you stop digesting your food well. You can think better because it'll send the resources to your brain. Your pupils might dilate so you can really focus. Your muscles get that information instead of your internal organs. Well, the reason why this is bad is people that are forever under stressful situations and always put themselves there, they can, tend to gain weight and get unhealthy because they're always stressed. And so their body pulls away the ability for your body to even digest properly. And so you won't even, and you can feel that. If you get nervous in front of talking in front of other people, your mouth will usually get dry. That's because your body is responding by pulling those resources of even liquid out of your mouth because it's not necessary and putting it in your muscles. So you can run away from that scary interview or whatever you're afraid about. Okay. So the autonomic nervous system is further broken down into the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Okay. So the sympathetic controls organs in times of stress, and the parasympathetic is kind of the opposite, where it helps the body recover from this. So one of them deals with the stress, one of them deals with the recovery that should come after stress. So hopefully we're spending more time with the parasympathetic where we're recovering than the sympathetic. And I want to show you what this looks like in this chart because I think it's a good chart. Um, the sympathetic would be more like your pupils dilating so you can take in more things and see around you. Your heart rate goes up. Your bronchial muscles are relaxed, which is going to make your lungs bigger so you can breathe a lot better, so you can get out of this scary situation better. And then your muscle contractions are reduced, like in your digestions and things. Oh yeah, so it says small intestine. So basically you're not able to digest as well. Parasympathetic, which is the opposite, which is you're recovering, your pupils start to constrict and calm down, your heart rate is decreased, your bronchial muscles relax again, so they kind of contract, so you're not taking in as much oxygen, but you don't need it in this situation. And then your digestion is increased, like your body puts resources towards digesting again. So hopefully you spend a lot more time in this parasympathetic than sympathetic.